Good afternoon, everybody. I guess we can start now. In a few sec, I will see what you see too. I guess you already are able to see the cover of our slides today. So my name is Michele Manocchi. Is an Italian name. I arrived from Italy 6 years ago, and I did what I guess you are trying to do right now, finding a job, try to understand how to present myself, how introduce myself. And I want to start with this personal, small little story about my first interview in Canada. If you read my name, Michele, you can see that it is spelled like here in Ontario, in Canada, they spell the English version of the French name, but this is used for female name. I have colleagues that are my exactly same name, and they are female. So I introduced myself. I didn't know that. I introduced myself with an email. And in the curriculum, the CV, I didn't have a picture. And so they were waiting for a woman. I arrived to the place, and the receptionist welcomed me, and then I was in the waiting room alone. And when the ED came out to look for Michelle and start the interview, she didn't look at me at all. She just realized that Michelle wasn't there, because in her assumption, Michelle should have been a woman. And so she went back to the receptionist saying, where is my interview? You told me that Michelle was here. And the receptionist stood up and brought the ED in a corner, but unfortunately there were mirrors and glasses, so I was able to see the scene. And she said, "Is that guy with the bird?" So that was my first interview, and then probably they gave me the job, probably because they were feel guilty for what happened before. It was an amazing experience, absolutely no issue, any kind of discrimination or nothing like that. I was very accepted. It was a very great job. But that was the story that happened to me recently. And so I want just to start with this, because today I will try to share with you something from our intercultural competency training that I hope will help you in understanding a little bit better which are the elements that could create some issues, some problem when you are looking for a job, when you are preparing for an interview, or when you maybe want to reorganize your CV in a way that could be more, let's say, understandable, readable for a Canadian human resource manager or employer. I want also to tell you that definitely go to organizations like Will and Employee, because they have all the expertise and experience in working with newcomers and helping them in doing this. So today I will add a specific aspect related with intercultural competency to the job that already the employment agencies are doing around Canada. But let me say something about the program. This ICAP, Intercultural Competency Advantage Program, is a program that we run at the Cross-Cultural Learner Center here in London, Ontario. We provide across Canada. And this is a social enterprise. So it's a business, a model that we are trying to grow through the dissemination and provision of training sessions. The material is huge. It's from research in collaboration with Western and the Migration and Ethnic Relations Center at Western University. And of course, in 45 minutes, I will touch a few topics. But if you want to know more, you can go to our social media. So we have Twitter, we have LinkedIn, we will have soon a new website. At the end of this presentation, you will have my contact, and I am really happy to make myself available for any kind of questions or if you want to chat a little bit, if you want to ask me something by email, I'm here, and I want to be helpful for you. So today I want to start, I guess now we can start. You see already the first slide. Here you have the 7 points that through literature review and research that we did in London and southwestern Ontario, you see these are the 7 main expectations at the Canadian workplaces: arriving at work and returning from breaks on time, speak with their bosses like they speak with their co-workers, and so on. You can read, I don't need to read for you. Why I start with this? Not because I am going to tell you, you have to behave, you have to do exactly what is written here, but because during these minutes together, with this time together, we will see how much each one of these points is fully embedded in our own cultural background, heritage, in the cultural lens that we daily use to interpret and make sense of the surrounding world. I will talk that later, but I want to start immediately with an example so we can understand which is the kind of work that we will do together. Arriving at work and returning from breaks on time, it's a cultural thing, because what does it mean on time? Now, if you are in Canada for a while, you discover that for Canadians, on time means 15 to 10 minutes earlier, because if you say 2 p.m., we will start the business at 2 p.m., no matter what. Now, I'm from Italy, and Italy, I don't want to generalize saying all the Italians do that, all the Canadians do that. That is not the goal. But culturally, we question a little bit more the time. We say, well, we will start at 2, and the expectations of the people, the attendees, will be that at 2, we will start gathering together. We will start touching about personal things. We will start getting our coffee maybe, or some food, and we will start warming up. And it's absolutely acceptable that the real business would start at 2, at 15, even 20 minutes after 2. And nobody noticed that, like, oh, we are in late, we are getting late, because that is how things works in the majority of cases in Italy when you organize a meeting. Of course, for a job interview, if it's 2 p.m., it's 2 p.m. No matter what, if you cannot show up at a quarter past 2. So you also see that it's not only cultural, but is also contextual. Where you are, who you are talking with, will change your orientations toward all these points. And this is exactly what I want to talk with you during this time together. But before that, let me start with another element. If I can go to this, perfect. Okay, thank you. So I just put here some pictures for you. These are greeting processes. Okay, now this usually happened to my training, and actually happened yesterday morning at the university. I was providing a training for the master students, so graduate students, and there was a hijabi woman, so with the veil, with the Muslim scarf, and at the end of the training, she was sufficiently comfortable in sharing a story that happened to her. And now I will, of course, I would not go to the detail for confidentiality, but basically was a story related with difficulties in the greeting processes. Why? Because in Canada, we know that the majority of people likes to shake hands. In Italy, we do shake hands. But for example, in Italy, we also hug and kiss twice in the cheeks. So if I want to be polite, probably during a job interview, I will not hug and kiss the human resource manager or the interviewer. But the second day, the third day, it's possible that a physical contact, a prolonged physical contact will be there at the greeting moment. It's not only a shaking hands, could be a touching the arm, could be going closer, could be having a little bit of a hug or contact. This is the way in which we believe we are showing our politeness. And you see here that we have shaking hands, we have hugs, we have bowing, doing some gesture with the hands, contact, physical contact, not physical contact. All these and many others way to greet are all good and legitimate. The point here is that we what does it mean to be interculturally competent? Means to try to start to open, start to be flexible, and start to accept the fact that around the world there are several different ways to greet someone else. And this doesn't mean that if I don't shake your hands, if I don't have a physical contact with you, I am having a disrespectful behavior. Because bowing, smiling, I am showing completely my willingness to greet you properly. And this is exactly the point. So we need to distinguish between what is the value that is politeness, properly greeting, doing something that is recognized and valued in where I am within the community that I am working in or moving. But the most important things are the interpretations of those values. Because when I meet someone else, I want to greet them. But my polite way, my way to show that I am completely open to meet this person could be different. So my interpretation to be polite during a greeting process could be very, very, very different compared to others. And if the others that I'm working with are not interculturally competent or open to different kind of things, they can get offended. They can think that I am rude. They can think that I am inappropriate. They can think a lot of different things, and maybe they will not tell me. So what will happen? That I will continue with my own interpretation of what I truly believe is politeness, and they will continue with their interpretations of my behaviors that they believe truly rude or not appropriate. And without communication, I will start to be isolated. I will start to be considered the troublemaker. I will start to be considered not adequate for this organization. So you see that the problem is not at the values level, but mostly at the interpretations of our values. And so this is the first suggestion that I can share with you. I'd like to share with you. Let's have always a second look at things, job descriptions, the tone during a phone call, gestures, emails, because you need to understand which are the potential alternative interpretations of that message or that specific gesture or situation that happened. And do not jump to conclusions saying, oh, they don't like me, or that was a failure, or they loved me. Because in both sides, even when we think negatively and positively, and also when we think positively, we could be in a situation which we are interpreting in a different way than the others are doing. And that could be the source of misunderstanding and misjudgments. So this was just to start to talk about the difference between values and interpretation of those values and then real individual behaviors. Our training focuses on the interpretations of the values because that is the source, potentially the source of the majority of misunderstanding. So let's see now how these kind of things works, and we will start with the definition of culture, okay? Now, if you Google the definition of culture, you will find a lot of very, very, very large and long definitions. Why? Because defining culture is complicated. Culture is something that you cannot teach and you cannot learn at school, for example. It's something that you were born in, you acquired during your life automatically, unconsciously, from your family, and then from your community, and then from the society at large in which you live. And when you move to another society, another place, but actually this happens only also when you move from an organization to another, you start to question yourself. You realize immediately that something that you were taking for granted since yesterday is actually not, doesn't happen actually in the new place. And so we start seeing that you don't need to be from outside Canada to be culturally diverse. You can be from Ottawa, from BC, from the Northern Territories and coming to London, Ontario, and having completely different experiences based on your previous cultural and personal and life experiences. Okay, so we need to focus on these two elements that we highlight in the slides. Culture is a set of things, practices, beliefs, patterns that we learned, and we continuously learn them. So culture is not a box that you receive when you come to this earth and then you carry on the same for all your life. It's a sort of toolkit, like you were a plumber. Okay, you have to fix something. How you can do that? You will use the tools that you have, but those tools sometimes don't work, so you have to adjust, you have to modify, you have to go and buy a new tools, and you still have your toolkit. So the toolkit is the culture, and the tools that you change, you buy new, you modify, are the elements that constitute your cultural background. And this is something that helps us also in considering migration in a positive way, because when you talk with someone about culture, they use the metaphor of the tree. So culture is like a tree, okay? You have your roots, and then you grow, and then you will develop, and then you will have fruits. Now, the problem that I have with this metaphor is that what happens when you uproot a tree and that tree moves to another country? When you uproot an adult tree, well, that tree could die because lost everything he had before. So instead of that, we use the metaphor of the iceberg. That is absolutely not original at all. Everybody understands immediately what does it mean, but it's cooler, we believe, because you navigate, you go around, you gain weight in a winter and you lose a little bit of weight in summer. You can encounter other icebergs, and sometimes there are some clashes there, sometimes you just navigate together. So the idea of the iceberg is this is the silly part of the metaphor, then we will use it in another way, but try to use this kind of metaphor when you think about yourself as migrants, because this gives you a little bit more power and esteem. Okay, self-esteem. So how we use the iceberg, and now we have the first, I guess, one of the few moments in which we can try to interact a little bit, even if this is a webinar, so we are not physically present one another, but you know, you have the questions box that you can use to ask me question. Now I'm going to ask you to use that tool to express your opinion about what I'm going to suggest. So if you have anything to say, just go there and instead of a question, write what you think, and then I will read them and we will discuss about that. What I'm looking for. This exercise that we do during the training works in this way. I ask people, now you will go around, you have a speed date activity with the other attendees. You will have 2-3 minutes to talk with someone else and brainstorm list everything you believe is from your cultural heritage, cultural background, your family traditions, something that you feel you are carrying on, like values that your family gave to you, or values that you feel are from your society, your community. Okay, everything you believe is related with culture, and you can start writing right now in the question window your opinion about that, what you believe is your cultural, some elements that can, let's say, show your cultural heritage. To help a little bit, we say sometimes as an example that you can talk about food. Okay, food is one of the first things that usually comes to mind when you talk about things that are culturally related. And so we start talking about what do you eat when you celebrate something. And so we start talking about celebrations and food. So for example, myself, I celebrate Christmas, but I don't prepare the turkey as they do here in Canada. I am more around lamb, because in Italy we prepare lamb, not all across the country, but in my family, yes. So this is something that I am carrying on from my family, a sort of tradition. okay? And I will continue. The way in which I cook the lamb is a little bit different than my mom, but I will continue to do it, and I hope my kids will continue to do that, okay? So these are elements. Can you think anything else that you can write there and you believe it's related with your cultural background? I will give you 30 seconds so I can drink some water. I'm looking at the screen right now. Okay, so we have things about celebration, what you celebrate and what you don't. Okay. So for example, Thanksgiving, yeah, also in Italy, we don't celebrate Thanksgiving. It's a big deal here in Canada. Another thing, it's Halloween. My daughter now is 10 years old and she's absolutely into Halloween, but for me, it's just nothing. There is no meaning in doing that. I help, I support, but respect for all, especially seniors, hard work, the concept of family. Now, when you talk about family, an interesting thing is that how big is the family, how many people are in the family concept to you, because for someone it's 5 to 10, for someone it's 20 to 50 people. In a lot of countries, in Italy for sure, in a lot of countries that I'm seeing there, people are writing from, or they're coming from, we name uncle and aunties, people that are not related with us. They are into the community, they are neighbors, that they are socially and culturally our aunts and aunties, and they have power on us. They can disciplinate us, for example. The sense of community, doing things together, how we celebrate or announce bad news, like the death of someone that we love, right? So, for example, in Italy, we have also differences along the country. You have someone that celebrates bringing food and someone that do other things. Okay, so thank you for that. Thank you. Now we'll see, you see that we subdivide the iceberg in 3 areas. The first area is the surface, is related with the superficial things like, for example, yes, food, okay, or clothes, things that are immediately visible, and people can say, maybe they cannot say that I am from Italy because I'm eating these kind of things, but they can definitely say this food is unusual here, and we can start talking about those kind of things. Be careful there, because maybe we can already offend someone if we say, oh, what is this? I don't like this smell, and we are indicating poutine. Well, poutine for Canadians is very important, so we cannot do that. The intercultural competency approach would say, oh, this is new to me. I never smelled or saw anything like that. Can you tell me about it? Okay, and we can start talking about these kind of things. The second area, the middle area, is an area that if you were in a boat, you can still see some eyes there. Okay, that is the area of things that are not immediately visible as culturally related, but they are culturally related, and so they need explanations. But no problem at all, because that area is the area of things that are easy to explain and easy to understand. So, for example, someone said sports interests. You're continuing adding, thanks for that. So sports, the interest about hockey in Canada. In Italy, we don't have hockey, we have football or soccer. But once you start talking to me about hockey, I can definitely relay on that and say, okay, so hockey for you is like soccer for us. Now I understand what is hockey for you, okay? Or the education system, the health system, insurance system, the bank system, okay? All those things that apparently are not culturally related, but they are. They are, because the culture is local. culture, okay? Now, the deepest part of the iceberg is the source, potentially the source of every misunderstanding. Why? Because over there is dark. We need extra light. We need to have an heavy equipment to go there and to see something, and we don't have control about that. This is the automatic pilot. That area is the area where we take everything for granted, the unconscious area. And I give you immediately an example. Let's say that you see something happening, I don't know, some people doing something, and you say, of course they are playing hockey, or of course they are playing soccer. That of course comes to that part of the iceberg, meaning that you are using your subconscious, your deepest part of the iceberg, what you take for granted, what you took for granted for all your life, okay, to judge a situation. And there is no bad or good here. This is exactly how our brain works, okay? We immediately jump to conclusions, but the conclusions that we achieve is a conclusion that is based on what we take for granted, what we don't even know about ourselves. So those are probably sometimes our strong beliefs, strong values, the way we judge the world around us. So if this is clear, now we can move on and summarize basically saying that we are talking about that lens. It's a cultural lens. I have glasses too, so I can physically do that. This lens is my cultural lens. And actually, it's not only a filter for my eyes, but it's a filter for my ear, for my skin. It's a filter that is surround me. Now, I cannot take off my cultural lens as I can with my glasses. We cannot anymore talk about being neutral, having a neutral look at the situation, be absolutely objective. We can definitely say we need to analytically analyze or go deeper in this situation, but our cultural lenses will be always on, because when we interpret something, we can interpret that only using what we already have. That is our cultural lens. Now, as I said at the beginning, through time, socialization processes, and life experiences, we modify these lenses, the nuances, the colors, the shapes, and of course, when we are in our 40s, we look at the world differently than when we were in our 20s, and probably that when we will be in our 60s, right? But we are still ourselves. We can still recognize that we are ourselves. So those socialization processes and life experiences help us in modifying, adapting our cultural lens, but we never take it off. And this is the main message in order to go further and to share the core elements that I want to share with you today. Let's talk about job, okay? Now, in workplaces, you have people from everywhere. So the first thing that I want to say is not anymore a question between Canadians and newcomers. Among newcomers, you have a lot of diversity, a lot of differences, okay? We are from everywhere around the world. The good things of Canada is that without travel, you can speak with basically half of the world in one day if you just go to any workplaces, okay? Some areas are more diverse than others. Toronto has 52% of residents are newcomers, London 21%, rural areas are less diverse, but this is a tendency that it will be there. It's a steady tendency. But also among Canadians, you have a lot of different in terms of cultural lens, because now we understand that cultural lens is something that is it's a local, temporary, and it's unique as the iceberg. It's individually unique. Okay, so we have a lot of cultural complexity here, and we need to find out ways to work better together. Now, I want to start with you with this. If you read this is from research. These are some of the main things that employers want to see in a candidate, and they will explore these of your characteristics during a job interview. Handling a difficult situation with a coworker, persuading team members to do things your way, adapting to difficult situation, being tolerant of a different opinion. Now, I want just to tell you something about persuading team members to do things your way. if I read this from my Italian perspective, because of course I'm speaking English right now, ish, but our interpretation of this language are different because we come from different countries and English is our second or third or even more further language. So persuading team's members in Italy doesn't sound a good thing, doesn't sound a characteristic that you want to show during a colloquium. You want to convince them, you want to speak with them and try to understand where they are and bring them where you are and do something that is common together, a common effort. But persuading sounds like I am manipulating you. And of course, it's not, this is not the meaning in the job interview that we have or in the human resource person that is interviewing us. They mean persuading in a good way and being together. But if we don't go to this kind of level of analysis, we are in trouble because each of these elements is culturally embedded. What does it mean, a difficult situation? In my training, people say, yeah, I'm from Ukraine, and when we talk with someone, we have to explain ourselves. We do go direct and just face to face, and we explain ourselves clearly, loudly, and firmly, and that is the way in which we solve problems. Perfect. Try to do this in Canada, and the results are not good because this is a way that you cannot use here in Canada. But that is exactly the way in which you are used to handle difficult situations with coworkers. So how translate all these kind of characteristics from a cultural lens to another? That is the real difficult aspect. But let's continue. Today I want to give you two big elements, just an idea of these elements. One is this. These that you are looking at are the 6 cultural orientation continua. Those are cultural orientations, okay? And then the other one will be on communication. Now, if you look at these, I'll explain the slide for you. You see 6 dimensions: self, personal space, workplace relationship, communication, time, and power distance. Each of them has 2 ends. The first, self, as individualism and collectivism, for example. Now, there is nobody, no human being, real human being, that is always, constantly, and totally on the individualistic ends or on the collectivistic ends. As real human being, we continuously shift along the continuum, okay? Depending on who we are talking with, where we are, which are our goals in the communication, okay, in the conversation. Of course, when we are in our family with our relatives, probably we are a little bit more toward the collectivistic end. When we are at the job place, probably we are a little bit more in individualistic. Now, I didn't plan to go through all the 6 dimensions for you today because it's a very short time to do that. Usually this requires several hours, but I want to show you some examples, okay? So we use these examples to ask people, how would you choose from your, for example, university courses? That is, how you pick, how you make your important strategic decisions in your life. In the individualistic approach, in general, you focus more on yourself because you focus on your interest, on your professional goals. You truly believe you are not selfish. This is the naive misunderstanding of individualism versus collectivism. You are not a selfish person, but you were trained and you are from a society where you come first when it comes to make important decisions. Because you are responsible for your decisions, you will be benefit of the result of from the result of your decisions, and you want to be proactive. So you are used to make your important decision in a specific way where the I comes first. On the other side, the collectivistic approach, you are in a situation, you always were in a situation in which your family, your community have a voice in your decisions, and you truly look for it. It's not just that you passively are oppressed from your family or community. And so something that a lot of people say, women with the hijab, they are oppressed. They didn't choose to have the hijab, and they are forced to wear it. That is very, very, very wrong. Is not true at all. Could be, of course, could be that we have examples of oppression, but everywhere in the world. What really happened is that is an identity choice. It's a religious choice. It's a choice that they make every day because they want to show a specific characteristics of their identity. So this was just to say that family and community are very important to make important decisions. They are crucial. Okay, you talk with someone that has more experience than you in the community or in your family. You follow the indications of your father and your mother when it comes to choose a university course, or moving to another city, or doing a trip. You consult with them. Okay, that is your way to make decisions. Okay, so if you are from a collectivistic society and you come to an individualistic society like Canada, you can have a lot of problems because you can misunderstand messages. You can believe that they are asking you to do something that you don't like. Like, for example, we would say, oh, you have to show off more your characteristics. You have to prove more your characteristics. That for us, because I'm more from a collectivistic country, could be a little bit showing off. Let's say, oh yeah, I was able to accomplish this, I was able to accomplish that. But this is my lens that is judging a request from the workplace. The request is, I need to know, I need to see clearly what you were able to accomplish. So if you don't tell me what you personally, individually were able to accomplish, I cannot pick you among the other candidates because I'm not able to understand what were your specific contributions to the job, the position that you had in the past. At the CCLC, and for sure here Will and Employ, they help newcomers in rewriting the curriculum, the CV and the resume, because your qualifications are already there, your experiences are already there, but the way in which you show them is not understandable for Canadian employers. So one of the things that they do, they rewrite together the curriculum in order to show better your individual and personal contribution to the job and the experience that you are listing in your resume. And then you have this kind of difficulties in all the other dimensions. Personal space, having a bigger or a smaller bubble. Now, this could be silly, could seem silly, but it's not, because if you have colleagues that prefer to have a bigger bubble around them, and as Italian, I go for the physical contact when I talk with someone, because that is what I look for when I have to speak to discuss with you. Okay, I will approach you. I will come closer to you, closer and closer, and you will try to distanciate yourself from me. And so at the end of the meeting, we will run around the room where you were trying to escape from me, and I will try to chase you. Okay. Now this is a silly example, but this is what could be when you meet someone that prefer to have a long distance. Now, as newcomers, English not first language, you have a situation which someone speaks English fast with a lower volume that you are used to, because as Italian I'm used to louder volume, and then they also want a big distance from you. That is a very difficult situation to manage for us. And of course, if you are in a job interview, you cannot say, may I approach? Can you speak louder? Maybe you can, but it's quite discomfortable. So all these elements, you see how formal you are, how informal you are. You ask people how they do. Yeah, in Canada, they say, how are you doing? And then you just answer, fine, or great, how are you doing? And that's it. It's a 50-second interaction, right? Sometimes when people ask you in other countries, how are you doing, you start talking. And when you start talking, you talk about things that in Canada are not accepted, personal things, health or economic problems, or stuff like that. Communication, and then we will talk more about that just in a few seconds. The way in which we communicate, straightforward, and sometimes this is the difficult things with the intercultural competency. Sometimes you have people, I meet people that tell me, oh, I prefer a straightforward communication style. And I start to speak with them in a direct, straightforward style. And they start to say, oh, what are you doing? I say, well, I'm using the style that you told me you like. So we discovered during the interactions that what they believed was a direct and straightforward style is not, from my perspective, because from their perspective is straightforward and direct, but from my perspective is just going around. Okay, so all these elements, time, I talk about time at the beginning, and then power distance. Okay, talking with the manager like you were peers, and so same level. Hey John, how are you doing? So let's talk about this report, and you are the employees, the employee. That is something that is not comfortable for everybody. Especially if you are from some cultures in which, for example, youth, younger people, so that maybe at the beginning of their experience in the workforce, they have to pay respect. And how they pay respect? Avoiding the eye contact, avoiding to call out mistakes of the managers, avoiding any kind of direct communication with them. But this is exactly what actually the managers in Canada are looked for. And so this is a big problem. If no one of the two parts is interculturally competent, they will not fit. They will not go along together. And who will have the worst result? The job seekers, because the employer is already there. They already have a job. It's you that you are looking for a job. So unfortunately, this power imbalance is there. And there is nothing that we can do to change it. It doesn't make even any sense to think about changing it, because you are looking for a job. So unfortunately, as newcomer, we need to adapt a lot. And already we do. And we need to understand how to fit better in a system that can be flexible, can be open, can be interculturally competent after my training, but it's still the mainstream society. So the changes here are slower than how we can change as individual, as job seeker, newcomer job seeker. Okay, so all these 6 areas also works together. That is the other problem. They work together, and so it's not only saying, okay, I understood that you are individualistic, so I would talk to you in this way. No, because maybe I have other differences in the other dimensions. So this is a tool that you can use to read your own style, to try to understand where you are and try to understand which kind of dimensions could create a problem or a potential issue during a job interview or you in your workplace. Okay, of course, there is no time to go deeper, but and you need more training about that, but you can already have a look here and think about, self-reflect about yourself and try to see where you are. Everything okay so far? Do you have questions? I have still a few minutes to finish this part about communication, and then we will open the questions and answer time, okay? So now, the other piece that I want to share with you is about communication, interpersonal communication. What's your communication style? Now, in other trainings, this part is managed at the end. You get a color. So you are yellow, or you are green, or you are gold, or you are orange, and that color has a list of elements, characteristics. We don't like a lot this, because actually this reinforces a little bit the idea of the silos. You are orange, so be proud of your characteristics. And then when you have to talk with the green guy, maybe do this and that. But the real training doesn't help the communication. With our training, we help people in finding the common ground. So the idea is the same. You have two ends, okay? And of course, depending where you are, which is the role that you are thinking yourself in, which are the goals of your conversation, you will prefer more the left end or the right end of each of these continua that I'm going to show you. The point here is that after they do the tests in the real training, they go around and share the result of the test, and they have to explain themselves why I prefer to focus discussion on results, or why I say that personal relationship is the prerequisite to getting the job done. And I have to explain myself. That is where the training starts, when you start understanding more about yourself. Why? Because when you start to explain yourself and your interpretations, see that we come back to values, interpretations, and behaviors. When you start to explain your interpretations of a sentence that is purposely short, you start to listen and to understand the real opinion that you have about that, but also you start listening the others. And usually what happens in the training sessions, that at the end people discover a common ground, discover that actually if you see this in this way, I agree with you. So it's not a question to be, okay, I'm here, I'm proud to be here, if you want to communicate with me, I can give you some sentence, but you have to come where I am. It's more, okay, I know where I am, I know what I prefer, but let me find a common ground with you. Let me understand what we have in common, and then we can go where we are both more comfortable during the interaction, because there is always the way to have relationship element during a discussion focused on results, and vice versa. The point is just to agree that finding this common ground is important, because if we don't agree on that, we will continue to have our styles and nothing good will happen. Okay, the other dimension is, for example, the meaning of silence. For someone, silence is unbearable. I cannot accept a prolonged silence of just a few seconds, because otherwise means that they are not understanding, they are not following, I have to re-explain myself. Maybe for another person that silence is meaningful because they are thinking about what you said and they are thinking about what they want to tell you. Okay, so the way in which you can use all these dimensions that I'm showing you and just reflect on your communication style, what you prefer. Always the goal for me, the tool that I want to share with you is try to understand where your preferences come from. Try to understand what you prefer to do, and try to understand, to realize that others could prefer to do it differently. Now, if you realize really that, you will understand that you need more flexibility, and you need to ask more flexibility. So one thing that you can do during a colloquy, during an interview, is say, I thank you for this question. I need, please, you to explain a little bit more what you mean with this question, because culturally I am interpreting this question from my standpoint, but I want to be sure that I will give you the answer that is correct from your standpoint. So when they will start to explain themselves, you will have also more space to understand what they want to see in you, and you will have more time to listen and to elaborate your answer. Okay? Emphasis on word, emphasis on other elements in the relationship here, for example. So speak, everything is important to you, or actually let people understand what you are looking for. I prefer to make my expectations and instructions blunt and overly stated, or actually not. Okay, this is another difference in style that we can find around when we are in a culturally complex environment. And emotion. There is no shame in sharing feelings. Yeah, but in which way? How much I am, let's say, allowed to laugh. My volume is okay. I'm getting too emotional. That is an expression that I just learned coming to Canada, because in Italy we don't have such an expression. Here, becoming overly emotional, okay? Or a person who remains inanimate during the discussion may be insincere or not interested in the topic, okay? So how you show that you are a professional. I believe fairness is ensured by establishing regulations, or on the other side, I want everybody look at me as an individual. I am unique, so you cannot treat me like everybody else with your policies and rules. These are cultural orientations toward elements. To conclude, I give you this, that this is basically the framework that you can use to do what we wrote at the end of the slides. That is the main goal of our training. The main goal is not to have ready-to-go solutions on your book, and every time you meet an Italian guy, you will use chapter 3, a Chinese person, you will use chapter 5, or an interactions at the workplace. Is not such a thing, okay? Unfortunately, or that is the good thing, in my opinion, there are not pre-organized, pre-shaped solutions for that. The competency here is to become flexible and to do what? To be able to determine, so it's a process because you need to collect information to determine something, to determine the most appropriate, not the best in every situation, but the most appropriate practices and behaviors to do what? Not to be friends or to be perfect, but to work effectively. We need to go through this day together. Perfect. We have to finalize this training, these reports together. Okay, that is the task. We don't need to be friends. Okay, I want to be quite clear about that. We need to determine the most appropriate practice and behavior to work effectively in culturally complex environment. This is the final goal. And now to do that, you can go through your knowledge. Of course, you are here listening to me. This is knowledge. You probably are, and you will train yourself, master, second master, PhD, whatever you want, but this is not sufficient. You need also to be sensitive, to buy in the idea that you want to learn about others. You want to be flexible, and you want to become interculturally competent, able to work effectively in cultural complex environment. But these are two elements are still not sufficient. You need the third one. You need the skills. You need the action, the behavior. This is why the training should be a behavioral training with a lot of hours. Because the first time that you try to manage the job interview in a different way, you will fail. Because this is what happens when you try to do something that is different. Okay, so you need to train yourself. You need to put yourself in action as much as possible in order to sometimes through volunteering. For example, in Canada, it's very, very important. I started like this, as almost every newcomer that I know, volunteering in organizations, so you get what does it mean to work in Canada, and then you build not only your knowledge and your sensitivity to that, but also skills that you can use to reshape your mindset and become more interculturally competent. Okay, I finished to share with you all the slides that I prepared for today. I'm sorry, I went late, but I'm Italian, so I can use this stereotype to justify myself. But we are here, and now I'm here for your question and answer. I will try to answer. If you have any question, please just use the same tools that you did before. I'll drink some water. And we will try to answer. So if you need other training, additional training, in the last slide, and also you will have access to these slides and this webinar even after when we finish, because this will be available online for you. Here you have my contact. The email here is the best way to contact me, because that is the office number, and of course you can call there, but it's easier to send me an email, and I can share with you what we have. You can also continuously check the offers from Employ and Will, because they are continuously offer training for newcomers looking for jobs. And then it depends what you want to acquire, but we can talk about that. Okay, so one of the person that is following the webinar asked if I can give some tips about how to take care of culture during the interview. Well, yes and no. I mean, depending who you are, okay? Because I can tell you that, of course, in Canada, you can find a lot of tutorials on online on YouTube. The best way to tackle a job interview, the buzzword that you have to have in your CV or during your speech in the interview. But actually, the problem with those tutorials is that they don't consider who you are, and they give you only suggestions that if you are not used to use, you would not be able to have a good performance about those tips. So my first suggestion is to know as much as possible yourself. For example, you know that you might know from previous experiences in Canada that people already told you that you are a little bit shy. You seems to be a little bit shy because maybe your culture, when you talk with someone that is more empowered than you tend to look down and not straight in the eye, because this is what you instinctively do. Okay, I'm not telling you to force yourself to have extended eye contact, but check on this. And maybe you can train yourself in having a little bit more eye contact during the interview with some friends, with someone that is in your around you and that can help. You can train yourself with. Okay, the body language is it's very important during an interview, because you know that body language communicates much better than our verbal language. So if we are like this during an interview, of course we're not engaged, right? So try to modify your body, try to show yourself as engaged in what you are doing, not too aggressively, but you are there for the job and you believe that you are the best for the job, because otherwise you wouldn't apply. Okay, so your body has to reflect what you want to say. Another thing that you can do, if you notice that the interviewer are using slang, so slang is the idiomatic language, full of expressions, full of sentences that maybe are not understandable for someone that has not English as first language, you can definitely open up about that. Remember that companies nowadays in Canada are aware that they will receive more and more diversity, culturally speaking and linguistically speaking. So they know that, but maybe they are not trained in manage real situations. So if you say, I'm sorry, I am understanding what you say, but can you please rephrase your sentence, because maybe with other words I would be able to understand better what you are asking me. And this is a technique that actually it's also useful for English first language speaker, because it's a technique that will help you in understanding better what they want. Other aspect, remember that in Canada there is a complete how can I say, women and men are on the same level. Okay, so this means that if culturally speaking or for any other reason you know of yourself that you will not shake hands with a man or with a woman, or you know that you will not be comfortable in looking a woman or a man in the eyes during the interview, well, you have to understand that this could create some issue during the interview. Okay, because if you look only at one person, the other person will start to feel disengaged. Okay, so force a little bit yourself and try to understand these kind of elements of yours that might constitute issues or problems during the interview, and try to adequate a little bit to the situation. Okay, you don't need to change your identity, you don't need to do stuff that you are completely uncomfortable with, but you have to check these kind of situations in order to prepare better yourself. I will go back now, but I want to read a couple of other questions. How you do if sometimes your peers are so nice and other days they don't even say hello? Well, I don't know if this is completely related with intercultural competency. It's possible that you are surrounded by individualistic people. So one of the characteristics of the individualistic people is that if they don't feel comfortable that day to talk to you, they will not. If they, for any reason, have any kind of problem, or I don't know, a fight at home with the partner, or they didn't sleep well, I don't know, it's possible that they will feel completely legitimated to behave accordingly to their emotional status. So today, I'm really not into conversations. Today, it's very difficult for me to talk with someone else for something that happened. So I feel entitled. I feel legitimated. I feel absolutely okay in going straight forward towards my to my office without talking with anybody. I know that this could seems to be, oh, you are not a good person because you have to spend a little bit time with me because we are colleagues and you did yesterday, so you cannot change like this in this way. Actually, they can, because from their perspective, and this is one of the most difficult points, but I strongly suggest you to try to put yourself in the shoes of others. Okay, try to that. It's a very good exercise. Not easy to do, but it's a good exercise. So sometimes, no, for them, that is absolutely okay. And all the other people around them that share a similar iceberg, they will interpret in the same way. So for them will be okay. Okay. Now I guess we have to close here, but we have your question. I asked a technical question here. We will be able, right, to see the questions even after the webinar. Okay, so I would try to, if you send me an email with your questions, because I don't have your email address, I would try to answer, and you can always reach out to me with other questions, and I will always be available for that. So thank you very much. Thank you for your engagement and commitment to share with us. It was great, and I hope you will have a good rest of the week.